So let's talk about the new $2,500 child tax credit that the Trump administration is bringing your way very soon. Today we're going to address this. We're going to address who could potentially get it, who it is excluding, because again, what we have seen from the Trump administration is one thing in particular, and we're going to discuss that in today's video. But before I get to that, all I ask is one thing. Takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So yes, the Trump administration is now proposing a $2,500 child tax credit. But who's going to get it? Will it start this year? And what does this mean moving forward? Well, we're going to get to that in a moment. But first, you need to understand there's some changes that are happening. In order to pay for this, there has to be cuts from somewhere, because right now the Trump administration doesn't want to continue to balloon up the deficit. However, we are extending the deficit total. Okay, it is going up. We're raising the ceiling in order to account for all these additional expenses. Let's look at this. It says here's how the child tax credit could increase under Trump. House Republicans released details on President Trump's one big beautiful bill, including an increased child tax credit. Keep in mind, in this bill, there is no Doge dividend check. So those $5,000 that many people were talking about, I talked about it quite a bit as well, that there was something that Republicans said, you know what, we talked about this. We asked President Trump about it. Elon Musk, he was very vocal on it, saying that, yeah, it could be coming. It's something that they're considering. Well, now they're not considering it because it would be too expensive, but too many Republicans, especially deficit hawks, didn't want to continue to deficit spend in order to give money back to the American people. I get it. But let's look at this because, again, there's an increase here. It says right here, at the centerpiece of the legislative tax proposal is making Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. But the House Ways and Means Committee also aims to increase the federal child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,500 through 2028. The reason for this is really simple. The reason why the Trump administration is going all the way through 2028 is because that's where President Trump that's his final year. Okay? So a lot of things you're going to see, they're going to go until 2028 and then they will kind of drop off. Okay? But it says it wants to make the $2,000 child tax credit permanent for the subsequent tax years. It says the measure would add a requirement for recipients to have a social security number. That's where things could get tricky. Because what if somebody has a ITIN? What if somebody's not not a legal immigrant here in the United States? They're still working on that. Should they or should their children be eligible for these child tax credits? Potentially. Or maybe not. That's something that lawmakers are going to be discussing. Now, I want to bring something else up because this is one of the other questions. Will this be a monthly payment? Will the $2,500 be split up into 12 equal payments? That was one of the questions. The answer as of right now is no. But based off of what we've seen in previous years, or actually in the 1 year where the child tax credit was received as a monthly payment for 6 months, we saw the poverty here in the country go down. Okay, people were not living in poverty because they needed that money just to survive. So this bill, this whole thing, the legislation came out yesterday. Okay, and it's just for review. It's 300 and some pages long, massive read, very boring. I didn't read the whole thing. Don't recommend you do either. But what was included and what wasn't? There wasn't anything included for monthly payments. But based off of what experts have been saying for many years, economists agree that if we took this child tax credit of $2,000, is what it is currently, or the proposal of $2,500, if we came out and gave this monthly, but only did it through electronic deposit, okay? where it goes right to your bank account. No check, just made it simple, right? It's bring the cost down. If we did this, it would lower the U.S. poverty. That would be great. But it would also exclude, and this is the issue, it would exclude those that are unbanked, okay, that don't have a bank account. What the Trump administration is also proposing is that everybody has to have a social security number. So those that do not have a social security number, but yet maybe are in school, or those that are potentially working, they wouldn't be eligible. And so this is going to exclude quite a few people. That's the other thing that is potentially going to hold this up. And then again, the amount, the $2,500. The reason why I bring that up is actually very simple. $2,500. So some were saying if we can give $3,600, $300 a month, that would be incredible. Or $250 a month for, let's say, people that are between ages of 6 and 17. This is exactly what happened back just a couple years ago when we were giving out those child tax credits on a monthly basis for at least 6 months. Well, some say, well, we could accomplish the same goal, but spend less money. Instead of offering $3,600 child tax credits, instead, we offer about $2,800, okay? And just stick with me on this math. But we offer $2,800, but instead of, again, where we're missing out those other $800, we're making it up by we're giving that money every single month, okay? We're giving that $220, $225, whatever it is. We're giving that every single month, not the $2,800 a year. And that would make up for the lower payment. I know a lot of people would gladly take $200 every single month as their child tax credit. That's per child, by the way. Not for a family, per child. That's what they're discussing. Again, do I think that happens? I don't know. But that is something that has been discussed. I want to keep reading this though. It says, under the proposal, the maximum amount of the refundable portion of the child tax credit wouldn't exceed $1,400 per qualifying child, subject to inflation. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act temporarily raised the child tax credit from $1,000 per child to $2,000 through 2025. However, it does expire at the end of this year. For the 2024 tax year, returns just filed in April, eligible families could receive a refundable credit worth up to $1,700. It says no further details were provided in the draft legislation regarding changes to the structure of the child tax credit. It says currently, children and families with annual earnings of $2,500 or less are ineligible for a refundable portion of the credit. That's 17 million children in low-income households who receive no credit or just a partial credit due to income limits, and it appears it may stay that way. Like I said, people will be excluded. Others will be included. But who's this supposed to help? Again, if a family, okay, is making annual earnings of less than $2,500, they're ineligible. Okay? What the Trump administration is doing, and I want to be very clear on this, the Trump administration has been very vocal on this for quite some time. We want people to get back to work. We want people to work, and if they work and they contribute to the U.S. economy, then we will provide them with additional benefits. That's essentially what we're seeing right here. So I just wanted to share that with you because I know a lot of people are wondering, is this $2,500 child tax credit, is this real? It is real. And this looks very likely it's going to pass. But again, that's why throughout the other scenarios, some are discussing, and it will be brought up again, making this a recurring payment of $200+ a month. But in order to get that, we're going to offset it by, you're going to get a lower amount, but you'll get the monthly payment. And it's not going to be you get a pick, whether you get a higher amount at the end of the year or a lower amount, every single month. They're going to decide. Lower amount, you get it every single month, or higher amount, and it comes as a child tax credit at the end of the year. So we'll see, but that is what we know as of today. So if you have any questions regarding this child tax credit, enhancement from $1,000 to $2,000 to $2,500 over the next few years, let me know. You can ask your questions. I'll try my best to answer them in a follow-up video. But just understand, this is all the information we know at this time. Until more updates come out regarding this bill, That's kind of where we're at. We're a little bit stuck. So just want to bring that to your attention. But again, that's what we know as of right now. So thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.